Good evening. I want to call to order this meeting of the Wendell Town Board of Commissioners. Welcome to all of you. We're happy to have you all here with us tonight. We're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Eastwake High School student Jaden Sanders. If you can come up, Jaden. I can't appropriately embarrass people if I don't have them right in the middle of the room. Jaden Sanders is a current junior at Eastwake High I-Tech and Design Magnet High School. He is currently second in his class and has an overall weighted GPA of 4.5526. He is a resident of Wendell, North Carolina, with aspirations of becoming an aerospace engineer. He is deeply passionate about aerospace engineering and eager to explore it further. His interests are diverse, ranging from geography and video games to tennis. He particularly enjoys engaging in these activities with family and friends. Additionally, he has dedicated over 3 years to practicing Taekwondo, achieving a first-degree black belt. His favorite subjects in school are calculus and physics. Despite their challenges, he finds the study of continuity and the exploration of our universe to be the most fascinating and complex subjects. Looking ahead, he is keen on seizing research opportunities with professors or research interns who are exploring aerospace. His focus is on fostering ethical practices within the industry, aligning with his long-term aspiration of contributing to advancements in aerospace technology and making a positive impact in the field. After graduating from Eastwake Magnet High School, Jaden hopes to continue studying these fields. His goal is not only to contribute to the advancements of the field, but also to cultivate an environment where others can discover their passion for these subjects as well. Well, my goodness. I'm going to venture to say you might be the smartest person in the room tonight. So I cannot wait to see all the things that you're going to accomplish, and we're so proud of you. So thank you for coming tonight, Jaden. All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. For our invocation tonight, from the Wendell Council of Churches, from Covenant Presbyterian Church, we're going to hear from Debbie McDuffie. Good evening. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a couple of things. My husband gave me guidance on what to do tonight. He's the pastor at Covenant Presbyterian Church.
You have the floor, whatever you want to
Great.
Tell us is wonderful.
I just want to tell you a couple of things that are going on with our church. And we are a member of the Wendell Council of Churches, which is why I'm here tonight. Our session is actually meeting at church tonight, so I was enlisted to be here on their behalf. A few highlights. We actually have just completed doing a planning session in our church, trying to look forward to the future. What can we do to reach new folks that are without a church at this point? So we're really excited about some of the new plans. We've already begun some of those and continuing with that as well. We're looking, our focus is publicity, public relations, and also trying to come up with new ways to reach children and youth and recreation. We have various groups that are already meeting at Covenant now. We have a Girl Scout troop that meets with us. We have 2 AA groups that meet on a regular basis. We have the Starbright Youth Theater who came and did a Christmas carol in our sanctuary at Christmas time. We had, I think, close to 500 people in the sanctuary for that. And they are wanting to come back and do some other theater productions. So I hope you'll avail yourself to those. And we have a newly formed 4-H group that is working, meeting in our fellowship hall. So we're doing some things to try to include the neighborhood and the children that are around us. We are, as we all know, entering the Easter season, and as a lot of churches, we have a Maundy Thursday service and Easter Sunday morning services. So I would just like to hopefully take this opportunity, if you're not already involved in a church, that we would love to have you to come and be with us at this special time of year. It's a good time to try something new if you haven't before. So anyway, I would like for you to join me now as we begin with a prayer. Dear Lord, we thank you so much for the beautiful day that you have given us, for the many blessings of life that you provide us. We thank you for this opportunity to come together to look at ways that this community might be reached and blessed. I pray for this town council meeting tonight, Lord, and just ask that you would give each one of these members guidance and wisdom as they hear the concerns, the positives of all the things that are going on around us. May all their decisions be led to benefit the people of the community. And I thank you for the time that each one of these council members has given to this community and for the good things that we have going on in the Wendell area. Lord, we just thank you again for all the many blessings. Thank you that we are able to be here together. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you again for being here with us tonight. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll move into our public comment period. As a quick reminder, the public can participate in public comment by signing up for public comment period the night of the meeting right by the door, and you will have 3 minutes to speak, or you can submit written statements via email to the town clerk by the Friday before the Monday meeting. Please include your full name and address, and it will be read into the record for the length of 3 minutes. That's just a reminder. We have no one signed up for tonight. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll move into our Section 4, recognitions, reports, and presentations. Item 4A is a proclamation recognizing March 16th through 23rd, 2024 as Creek Week in Wendell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're
And
welcome.
Council for all the support y'all have given us to get this stormwater program off the ground and heading into Creek Week and some wonderful things coming next week.
We're excited about it.
Me too.
All right,
You don't
all
wanna
right,
get
let's
up.
hear the proclamation. Whereas the Wendell Town Board of Commissioners acknowledges the importance of water quality and water supply as an essential resource for achieving and maintaining community health, economic stability, and long-term community prosperity. And whereas access to clean waterways, creeks, streams, rivers, and lakes for recreational, scenic, agricultural, and economic development purposes is a fundamental component of community life. And whereas the town of Wendell aspires to be the continued health and economic welfare of its citizens who value clean water for domestic consumption, agricultural use, and as an industrial resource. And whereas the town of Wendell acknowledges the importance of good stewardship and proper management of water resources through thoughtful land development, deliberate and ongoing efforts to reduce sources of pollution, and responsible consumption. And whereas a variety of public agencies, advocacy groups, environmental educators, and citizens have organized and intend to implement a week-long celebration and promote water quality, conservation, and general awareness of the indispensable nature of clean water through education and proactive community engagement. Now, therefore, as we near the week of recognition, I, Virginia Gray, Mayor of the town of Wendell, North Carolina, do hereby designate the week of March 16th through 23rd, 2024 as Creek Week in Wendell, North Carolina, and encourage all citizens to participate in activities and programs to address the important issues confronting water quality and water supply. Duly proclaimed this the 11th day of March 2024, and it's signed by me. And Megan, I believe, wants to take a quick picture. All right, item 4B is the recognition of East Wake High School staff member, Mr. Francisco Barzola. Mr. Barzola is a current English as a second language and Spanish teacher at East Wake I-Tech and Design Magnet High School. He has been a teacher at East Wake for the past 3 years. Excuse me. Mr. Barzola loves teaching and learning about languages and cultures. He loves being a teacher, and he thinks language acquisition involves more than just knowledge. After finishing university, Mr. Barzola started working as an English teacher. Then he began meeting people at training seminars and webinars from different parts of his home country of Ecuador. Those experiences motivated him to continue and explore the English language in other contexts. In his role as an English as a second language teacher at Eastwake High School, he helps learners embrace a new language, culture, and educational opportunities. He is also an ambassador teacher in the Participate Learning program. Being a warrior at Eastwake High School is a great opportunity to support multilingual learners as they advance to the next level of their education. The multicultural and multilingual diversity environments make him proud of being a teacher that focuses on opportunities for everyone, no matter what their proficiency level. So, Mr. Barzola, we wanted to have you here tonight and recognize you, and thank you for everything you do for our kids in Wendell. So thank you very much for everything that you do for them.
Good evening, Board Commissioner member. I'm so proud to work with ML, a student at Eastway. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm still, supporting that in a way that they embrace your culture and your language.
Yeah.
I really appreciate this recognition.
We're happy to have you, so thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much for your.
Yes, sir. All right, moving to our public hearings, section 5. And item 5A is, it says public hearing to annex and rezone approximately 32.61 acres from Wake County Residential 30 to Neighborhood Center Conditional District to create Old Tarboro Residential at 617 Old Tarboro Road. We've already held this public hearing, and the board voted to continue the request until tonight. So here we are.
Yep. Good evening, Mayor and board members. The item before you tonight, you are correct. We held a public hearing previously. The applicant made a few presentations to you and updated their plans. Their plans did go back through the technical review committee, which includes town staff and our partner agencies. And in June of last summer, it was decided on that because of the concept changing, that a new public hearing would be held, which brings us to this evening. So I'm going to go over the rezoning case. The applicant and staff are here to answer any questions you have from the developer. Kimley Horn is here for the traffic impact analysis, and overall development team can answer some additional questions as well.
Can I interrupt you just a second? So
Yeah.
are we holding a new public hearing?
We are, yep. It's a
Okay.
new public hearing. Yep.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
I wasn't aware of that.
And I'll just go over, the applicant's going to go over more details of some of the changes they made. The applicant is requesting to create a residential community, which includes 173 townhomes and then 76 apartments, which are 2-over-2 townhomes. They are classified as multifamily, and the applicant does have some slides on what a 2-over-2 townhome is and looks like. Street A within the community does contain a 10-foot multi-use path connecting Eagle Rock Road to the future commercial along Wendell Boulevard. There's also some few updated zoning conditions related to those 2-over-2 townhomes. And then, as I said, the amended plans did go back through the technical review committee as well. Parcels there highlighted in blue. It's in between the Wendell Boulevard, Eagle Rock Road, with Old Tarboro bisecting the site. To the north is Vichay and the Wake Tech campus. To the east is Anderson Farm. To the south is Leo Living, and to the west is Seminary campus and a residential subdivision in Wake County's jurisdiction. Setbacks for the townhomes meet all of our neighborhood center zoning district requirements. They are providing for the driveway width, and minimum width is 16. They're providing 20 for the townhome units. Neighborhood center zoning district is meant to have a mixture of uses from commercial to residential. In this case, their project is all residential with connectivity to future commercial to the north. Zoning conditions, I'm going to go through these. There's quite a few here. We'll go through them. Most of them have not changed from the previous application, but just to go through it for the record. The apartment building type shall be permitted by right on the portion of the property north of Old Tarboro. Condition 2, apartment buildings shall be exempt from the maximum height limit set out in section 5.11. In neighborhood center, it's traditionally a 3 floors. We have had quite a few zoning conditions for kind of mixed-use nodes in residential projects that do want to go to 4 floors. So they are requesting that for that 2/2 product. Minimum heated square footage of each townhome unit shall be 1,500 square feet. Each unit of townhome buildings shall have a garage, and it does list the garage style, whether it's a front-loaded or alley-loaded. There are a mixture in the proposed development. Condition 5, all units of an apartment building of any height will have a 1-car garage dimensions and have a garage door with a window. Townhome units shall have a covered front stoop. Condition 7, vinyl siding is prohibited except for trim elements, and then they must use 2 of the following materials that you see listed there. Condition 8, a minimum 12-inch roof overhang shall be provided along the front and back of each townhome, and then end units will have that overhang as well. Condition 9, a 20-foot wide buffer shall be maintained along the property boundary to the north and northwest. Existing plant material may be used but shall be supplemented to meet requirements of the buffer. Condition 10, a 10-foot wide supplemental screening buffer will be maintained along south of Old Tarboro as shown of the approved master plan, except where existing plant material is used. The screening buffer shall consist of 12 understory trees and 48 shrubs per 100 linear feet, and that's in addition to the street trees. They may use existing plant material as well. Condition 11, all townhome end units and apartment buildings shall have at least 1 window per floor. Condition 12, townhome buildings shall have at least 2 front-facing gables. Condition 13, to avoid monotony of exterior elevations, a 2-foot offset in the front facade shall be used every 3rd townhome unit at a minimum. That does create an offset for that visual impact. Condition 14, townhome buildings shall have window shutters on at least 25% of the windows on the front facade. Condition 15, townhome buildings shall contain an element of each of the following siding materials: horizontal, shake, or board and batten. 16, each townhome unit shall utilize a decorative front door with a minimum 10% glazing. Condition 17, each townhome lot shall have a minimum width of 20 and a minimum depth of 80 feet. The amenities shown on the master plan, which include a pool, amenity center / bathhouse, pickleball courts, playground, dog park, shall be provided as shown on the plan and maintained by the homeowners association. All improved open space areas will include paved walkways, public seating, supplemental plantings, trash receptacles, and bicycle parking in accordance with the UDO. Condition 19, HOA shall be responsible for mowing grass within the development and caring for the landscape in the commonly owned areas. The initial covenants for the HOA will provide that the HOA is responsible for maintenance of the roofs of the townhome buildings. Condition 20, townhomes and multifamily apartment uses shall be permitted by right as part of the approved conditional uses. Conditions 21 and 22, I won't go over every detail of those. Those are some exceptions to the Street A and Street F. Street A, they are asking for a multi-use path instead of a sidewalk, which is connectivity throughout the community to what will be commercial to the north. Street F is in an area near a cemetery, and so there's not to disturb the cemetery, there is some adjustments to the street. It still does have that pavement width of 22 feet. And does have sidewalks. Zoning condition 23, a 10-foot wide multi-purpose path shall be provided on the property adjacent to the Eagle Rock Road right-of-way within the adjacent Eagle Rock right-of-way between Old Tarboro and the property shared boundary with 729 Eagle Rock Road, which is to the south. So that multi-use path will be internal on Street A, but also along Eagle Rock Road, which along our major corridors, we are asking for that 10-foot multi-use path for connectivity for a variety of users from bicyclists, joggers, and walkers. And then condition 24 is related to, there's a area near the intersection of Old Tarboro and Eagle Rock where, based on our plans that are in design now with VHB, to design a new Eagle Rock extension north with the Vichy intersection, they are reserving that roughly 12,800 square feet to be reserved for potential future right-of-way. If the town does not need that right-of-way, it will become open space for their community. Open space, as we mentioned, they are meeting the requirements of the UDO. They're providing a pool, the bathhouse / amenity, pickleball courts, playground, dog park for the unit type. Stormwater, the applicant is still showing those same 3 stormwater control measures from the previous plans. Buffers, they are providing the 20-foot type B along the northern and southern boundaries, since these abut existing single-family residential uses. A type B buffer does require 1 tree every 25 feet and 1 shrub every 6. They are doing a 10-foot wide supplemental screening buffer. Will consist of those understory trees and shrubs, but also street trees as well. And then the proposed development plan includes a 10-foot street yard buffer along Eagle Rock Road in Old Tarboro. A street yard buffer for the proposed townhome uses 2 canopy trees per 100 linear feet of frontage. TIA was done for the project. It does show the construction of a southbound left turn lane on Eagle Rock Road into their Street A, which is the kind of the main north-south artery through the neighborhood. They are constructing quite a few interconnected streets that intersect with Eagle Rock and Old Tarboro, and so all those other entrances are identified on the TIA. Town transportation requirements, Eagle Rock Road improvements along the frontage will include additional laneage, curb and gutter, 10-foot multi-use paths, and street trees. There is a minor thoroughfare going through the site through east-west that connects over to Anderson Farm. There's 1 property in between, but that is a 79-foot right-of-way with travel lanes, sidewalk, curb and gutter, and street trees. In places, we are having that go down to 2 lanes, depending on that 3rd lane is really needed for turning movements. And then all the local streets are a 52-foot right-of-way, include travel lane, sidewalk, curb and gutter, and street trees. As I mentioned earlier, with the zoning condition 24, the applicant has worked with town staff to reserve roughly a 1/4 acre at the intersection of Old Tarboro and Eagle Rock Road for future right-of-way if needed, as the town plans for the adjustment of Eagle Rock Road. As part of that reservation of that area, Street B, which was in the original TIA and connection, is no longer going to be constructed, as that area is part of that reserved area. So that, with the removal of the Street B connection to Eagle Rock Road, it still complies with our regulations, and also plenty of ingress and egress points for the neighborhood. And as I mentioned earlier, if it's not needed for the future extension of Eagle Rock Road, then it'll be retained as open space for the community. They are also providing 27 off-street parking spaces at the amenity center, 15 parking spaces at the mail kiosk, and 5 more at the dog park. And there are also 24 parking spaces shown in the 2/2 townhome multifamily section, in addition to the garages that are required by zoning condition 5. Comp plan lists the area south of Old Tarboro as medium residential 2. North is innovation. Comp plan for medium residential 2, moderate density comprised of single family or attached single family, such as townhomes. They are providing everything south of Old Tarboro is townhomes. Density of the project overall is 7.63 units an acre, and they do have improved open space, which includes dog park, playground, pool, pickleball courts. Innovation, multi-family unit section of the project is north of Old Tarboro. There are still a section of townhomes as well. The 2/2 townhomes really operate as apartments, condominiums, could be individually owned. Multifamily units are allowed in the Innovation District, and kind of provides a step up in density to that future commercial area to the north. And again, the dog park, playground, pool, and pickleball courts are for the entire project. Statement of plan consistency. The plan is consistent with Blueprint Wendell 2030 as outlined above. Neighborhoods and housing, diversify housing to appeal to different groups. In the case of the 2 over 2 townhomes, they are not in our market at this time. They are basically, and the applicant has images, 4 stories. One unit is the bottom 2 floors and one unit is the top 2 floors. They really operate in a variety of places now in Wake County. It's that it creates kind of a more urban density or kind of a condominium feel where we just don't have that product currently. And then connectivity, the amount of improvements, whether it be Old Tarbor or Eagle Rock Road, there are quite a bit of road improvements in that area. Old Tarboro currently is still a dirt road maintained by NCDOT. It is planned that that will become a town road once all of the development is complete along there. It'll be anticipated that's a town road moving forward with curb and gutter, sidewalks, street trees, and the connectivity. Neighborhood meeting, they did hold a neighborhood meeting back in June of 2022. 12 people were in attendance. Those minutes are included in your attachment. Staff's comment, the project is consistent with the comp plan. They did meet with us a variety of times on their concept and brought that back to you. And also planning board action in November 2022, the planning board voted 6-1 on the motion to recommend approval. I can field any questions you have for me. Also, the development team is here and does have a PowerPoint as well.
Okay, let's open the public hearing. Any questions from the board already? Yeah, go ahead.
Brian, were there additional neighborhood meetings and planning board consideration before this public hearing?
No, it did not go back to a neighborhood meeting or planning board, just came back for a public hearing with you all. You're welcome.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On page 63, item 1, I guess, it says proposed conditional district conditions, the apartment building type is prohibited. But then on zoning item 20, it allows it. So just clarify for me, is that a discrepancy?
In the old version,
That's the
there
old
was,
version.
yeah, I don't know if you were looking at minutes, but the old version, apartments were prohibited. In this case, they've revised the plan to include the 2 over 2 townhomes, which would be considered multifamily apartments in our jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else from the board?
I have one question for the developer.
Yeah, they're going to do a
Okay,
PowerPoint.
sure, thank you.
Let them do their thing, and if they don't answer, you can ask them anything you'd like. All right, let's hear from the developer, the applicant.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Gray, members of the commission. My name is Toby Coleman. I am a land use attorney with Smith Anderson here on behalf of Haley Development. They're the developer on this project. With me today is Rich Tometz. He is the owner and operator of Haley Development, along with his colleague Mike Fitzgerald. And also, as Brian mentioned, we've got a couple folks from Kimley Horn, Matt Gross, he's the landscape architect for the project, and Wendell's own Kevin Dean, who is the transportation engineer. Thank you all for taking the time to allow us to bring this back to you. As Brian mentioned, we've been back to you. You guys have seen this a couple of times, or most of you have. Commissioner Honeycutt, I think this is your first time. But I thought, since I know you guys have a lot of things going on, I'm going to go do a quick flyover. Feel free to interrupt me if you have questions. Rich will also provide a little bit of context. I thought it would be useful just to give sort of a visual here as we went forward. So this came to y'all. It's primarily still a townhome development. As Brian said, there is a 2 over 2 element, which I'll get into in a minute. Part of the reason why we didn't go back for a neighborhood meeting or a planning board meeting is because there was really no neighborhood opposition on this one. If you recall, when we first came to you in February of 2023, there was no opposition outlined, and planning board approved this 6-1. And the concerns then were really about density. And so, and what we heard from y'all in February of 2023 was the area in green there that's south of Old Tarboro Road, y'all were fine with. Y'all were fine with townhomes in that area. It was the area in the yellow that y'all were that there was some concerns raised. And the reason for that is because it was in designated innovation district. And so the concern was, we're not sure that we want to have townhomes and that level of lower density in our innovation district, because that's sort of a limited area. We took that, we asked y'all to give us some time to really think through that. And we came back to y'all in June of last year for a work session. And at that point, we said, what we're looking at is a 2/2 project. And we outlined some of the commercial plans for the area to the north, which is all owned by the same family, the Medlin family. I'll talk a little bit more about that. But at that point, what we understood, and I actually rewatched it just to make sure that my notes were correct, but was y'all said, we like this idea better. We would like to make sure that the connections are there. We don't want this to become sort of something where you've got a connection there, but people don't like it, and people are coming back, that sort of thing. So we tried to be really thoughtful about that. So just to give you some context, this is the property owned by the Medlin family. It's about 48.76 acres once you take out right-of-ways. And the yellow part is the part we're talking about. That's the rezoned area. The part that the Medlin family is retaining, which they want to develop as commercial, is that area in red. So we've tried to really think about this as sort of part of a larger whole, but Haley Development only has the residential portion under contract. So that's sort of the balance we've been trying to strike. And this was a line that they drew back in 2023, so they filed a plat, so that's the line that has been drawn here. So here's the changes sort of in a visual form. So the area in red, that's sort of the future commercial mixed use that we were trying to think through, but is not technically part of the rezoning. That purple area is the 2/2 townhome area. So we took what had previously been about 50 or so townhomes and turned that into about 75 2/2 units. So again, making those 4-story buildings with basically townhome, one townhome with a townhome above. So it's about a total of 76 units. And we tried to be more intentional and really think through the pedestrian connections, and particularly we focused on that north-south street that's highlighted there in green. In addition, and the thought was, by having sort of a distinct set of types of development, you create sort of a distinction that allows for that to be sort of a more natural flow-through street. We also have on one side, as Brian mentioned, a 10-foot wide multi-use path. So it creates a strong pedestrian connection up to that commercial area to the north. One of the questions I just wanted to respond to, I know you guys know this, but one of the concerns and questions was, why put residential north of Old Tarboro Road? And really it boils down to the fact that it's really not ready for commercial at this point. So this is a picture pulled from Google Maps, as you can tell, of Old Tarboro Road currently. Picture right of that of the road is the north side of Old Tarboro Road on this property that we're talking about. And it's a dirt gravel road. The portion of Old Tarboro Road that is that has, at least historically, is unpaved is shown there in yellow on the right. D.R. Horton Anderson Farms, I believe, is either going to or going to, I think, pave that portion that's bubbled. So a lot of this is going to be paved, but it is something that needs to get done. It's hard to get, and Rich can talk about this a little bit more, but it's hard. It can be hard to get commercial or office or others to develop on obviously an unpaved road on the back end of something. Obviously, it's proximity to 64, but this is something that, as you've seen with D.R. Horton, residential developers are willing to do. And so what we think this will help with is creating a walkable, bikeable residential development that's near Wake Tech. It's near other economic engines within the Innovation District. You see some of the connections there with pedestrian connectivity. There'll be sidewalks along Old Tarboro Road. There'll be a multi-use path running through the property up to the commercial area. There'll also be a multi-use path along Eagle Rock Road that ultimately can connect up to Wake Tech. And as we mentioned in June, we really looked at and thought about, how does this what is a similar development that we could point to? And we thought Tree Light Square was a reasonable example. We understand that there's some distinctions in that it's not owned by the same person or the same group, but the idea here is that the rooftops bring the commercial. You need the rooftops to bring the commercial. And so the townhomes pay for the infrastructure and amenities. You got the dog park, you got other green areas that helps bring it into consistency with your innovation district. And the commercial and the retail will follow the rooftops there. Rich can talk about it a little bit more, but Haley Development does have experience up in Maryland and elsewhere with creating walkable neighborhoods that can provide that sort of level of mixed-use development, this sort of horizontal mixed use. Just to go back all the way back to a year ago when the concern was about the Innovation District, we are really heartened by the fact that our changes have been, that staff has looked at our changes and found that it is now consistent with the Innovation District. We really appreciate that. We're really proud of that. We'll also note that that with this change, it would not be a significant detractor, and we think it would actually help out the Innovation District. It only encompasses about 11 acres of the Innovation District, which is less than 3%. 93% still has, of the Innovation District, will retain its commercial and mixed-use nature. You can see all the numbers there. But we think this will help with a vacant area that has been long undeveloped, help it develop in the way that the town envisions. And then finally, wanted to talk a little bit about 2/2s, townhomes. As Brian said, those are just townhomes that are stacked one on top of the other. You can see these are pulled straight from the master plan as potential facades. You can see you've got sort of the classic townhome rows. These I think show 4 and 3 side by side, and then you have one unit on the bottom and one unit on the top. Each unit will have a one-car garage as part of these plans. I believe Commissioner Joyner, you mentioned that you were very familiar with this product, but wanted to mention it to everybody else. With that, I'll hand it over to Rich Tomats just to provide some additional information about this development.
Thank you, Toby. As always, I have to bring the microphone lower. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Rich Tomats. I'm with Haley Development. We've spent the last year going through, revisiting our notes and the concerns that were raised on our initial submission on this project, which then had the Innovation District overlay applied to it. And we've worked exhaustively to meet the concerns that were raised and to carry out a vision that we're very confident and proud of. We increased density, intensity through a product that has a nice blend that we think adds to a horizontal mixed-use community, like what Tree Light has right next, abutting it. And when you go and actually grab a bite over there, you can actually see the walkability of those adjacent neighborhoods and how much that adds. We also, on interconnectivity, worked very hard around the stream that comes and has kind of an odd jog, which several of you raised before, over why do we have to plan around it? Well, it's because it's a stream and an environmental buffer. But we still needed to provide connectivity to give a potential for a grid pattern and flow for residents to both walk and bike as well as drive to get to activate with rooftops what would be the commercial and retail section. Another key part for us is that we feel very strongly that this will be a walkable, bikeable neighborhood potentially for employees at Wake Tech. If you look at the surrounding neighborhoods, there aren't many opportunities for Wake Tech employees to be in that close a proximity, and we really felt that was a key driver for us in how we've laid this out in the type of product and variety of product that we're providing within that community. So in overall, we feel that providing the rooftops will activate the commercial with the retained property, and that we've designed it with a connectivity focus that will really be an optimal additional piece of the overall innovation district while being a very small part of residential for it. We're available for any questions this evening, and thank you for your consideration.
Are there any questions from the board for either? Go ahead.
I guess, Toby, this would be for you. At any point between June and now, the Medlands on both of these. Has anyone said to the Medlands, hey, it seems like part of our issue with getting this lower track completed is the way it aligns with the upper track? They seem very concerned about the upper track. Is there any feedback about?
I'll let Rich
Is
answer
it,
this.
is it, yeah, let them wait and see? It seems like we're dealing with the same people, but it also seems like we're dealing with two very different things that are inevitably tied together.
Yeah, it's a very valid point. So the vision and the contract that we've had with the Medlands was to create residential to then activate commercial, that the residential rooftops are what activate it. We've had a lot of experience, Toby was mentioning, all up and down the eastern seaboard, from the mid-Atlantic to Florida with horizontal mixed use. And I remember one hearing in Florida where Publix testified in favor of one of our projects to say that the retail can't happen without those rooftops in close proximity. But to answer your question on that, then, the Medlands with their commercial have had this plan and strategic focus to have the residential component be designed to then open up the commercial opportunities without knowing initially what that would be. And so we've gone back with that stream being kind of the one odd design consideration to try to figure out, and have really created an additional focus of what will leave that palette of the retained commercial, non-residential, to provide for the connectivity points that allow for a variety of commercial and retail uses. So we've met with the Medlands and as well repeatedly, and with their representative in communications on what we're trying to carry out with the town on the design and with the interconnectivity. And so they're through their family representative, they're understanding what we're laying out. I don't know if that answered.
I mean, I think my bigger question was just, don't the Medlands want this all to develop? It sounds like they do. I would argue with them that if you're looking for rooftops, they're literally everywhere around this. And just, it seems like we're trying to connect some things, and I'm trying to make sure that I understand what is real on the north side and what is, like, what the Medlands have committed to on the north side, what we know is going to happen on the north side, and how that plays into the walkability and things that you've.
So I will tell you that what we've laid out in those connectivity points are to us laying out the palette of the grid, and that we would then have to follow consistently through final engineering and actual development. So those points are fixed, and we've just gone over and over and over to the best of our abilities, and I'll let you come up, Brian, but that those points are fixed, and we think that connectivity then locks them in on what they can create behind that.
And currently, the Medlands, the northern half and the southern half that they have, is in Wake County's jurisdiction. So there are municipal water and sewer within 1,000 feet. So if that property does go to develop, Wake County will send it to the town of Wendell for any type of rezoning annexation. So we get to decide what that northern half looks like through a future rezoning. But right now, the entire site is in Wake County's jurisdiction. So that, just to clarify.
Toby, I remember, I guess, in February last year at least, I think, and you talked about it a little bit today, you mentioned that the subdivision or the plat had been recorded. Did your slide say that it was then later recombined in 2023? It looks like the tax maps and everything, it's all one big parcel, right?
It is, you're correct, and I've looked at that multiple times before I came back in here, because I was like,
I couldn't
wait a minute,
remember how
why? But yes, it was actually done in early 2023. I don't want to, don't quote me if it was January or February, but it was around that time when they did the recombination.
More of a comment, and I think I'm still where I've been the whole time. Is just, I love the idea. Honestly, I like the full concept, especially in these slides and the ones we saw in June. I just wish I could have a chance. I would like to have a chance to vote on all of them, especially when it's all the whole concept's being proposed on one parcel of land owned by one group of property owners. I'm not sold on the idea that there's a reason to do anything less than wait and see when somebody's got a proposal for all of it at once.
Mr. Coleman, you had said earlier that there was no neighborhood opposition.
Yeah.
But when I look at the questions, I see that, they're talking about overwhelming the road systems. And again, I know that's their statement, but I guess my question is, with these changes, have we gone back to those individuals? Has there been another discussion with them or to address those questions?
We have not, and thank you for pointing that out. There were concerns, again, and I think one of the reasons that we were surprised, frankly, about the concerns that were raised once we got to the board last February was that the concerns that we were hearing from neighbors and planning commissioners really related to, this is too dense, there's too much traffic. And then, and again, I mean, we have Kevin Dean here who can talk a little bit about the roads. We have not gone back to those neighbors. To be perfectly frank with you, part of that is because we've been focused on trying to address the concerns being raised by Commissioner Eatman and Commissioner Joyner regarding how does this all fit into the larger picture and how does this fit? Because we came in initially and we said, we're building a townhome community without really talking about the rest of it. And so we've tried to be sort of more mindful about the larger scale. So we have not. So to close it out, we have not gone back to those folks, in part because that has not really been where the discussion has been, I think.
And I understand that. My worry is, and it's the first time you and I have had a chance to have a conversation, but if you say there's no neighborhood pushback, and I can read this line and it seems to be the opposite,
Yeah,
that gives me concern.
understood.
Just for the record, neighboring properties were notified of tonight's public hearing and signs were posted, which is our normal procedure for any public hearing. There could be residents here.
And I appreciate that. I took the liberty to ride this road and made a few phone calls myself, and some of them have not been notified. But to your point, perhaps they're not directly adjacent. With that said, again, I'm just operating on what you say, and thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah, well, thank you.
I have a question about I'll make a couple comments after, but on I guess the renderings, there's the front of the project, the 2/2. And if I'm looking at the map, I'm assuming that this southern portion, they're both rear loads going back to the private alley.
You're talking about, when you talk about the southern portion, you're talking about the southern portion of the
The southern
two.
of the, I guess, south of Street D.
Do you know, Matt?
You're talking about on the south side of Old Tarboro Road?
He's talking about the north side.
No,
of
I'm
Old
talking
Tarboro.
about
Come on.
the 2/2s. I'm just trying to get an idea of are these all rear load projects? If you live on the top, you still enter in one-car garage. Yes, sir. Having not seen this type of product before, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I'm Matt Gross with Kimley Horn, landscape architect, land planner. It's a good question, and essentially the way it's been designed is exactly like a townhome. You have an alleyway bisecting the pod or the lot that you see here. In this exhibit, it's in purple. We've essentially have 4 to 6 lots from which these facilities are going to sit. So you enter in on the back, like you would on a typical townhome, rear loaded. There's driveway, and there's a one-car garage for each unit. So essentially, each block, if we would call it that, each stack has 2 single-car garages, so that you would pull in, and there would also be enough depth on the driveway for someone to pull in behind. The other idea is we are providing parking lots, independent parking lots for these areas for visitors. And it's also always been an intent of ours that there would be some on-street parking where allowed within the community. Not necessarily on Old Tarboro, because that's more of a collector, but the idea is that this is like any other residential road in Wendell where you would have, some temporary visitors parking there in front of the unit if they're there to visit and then leaving. But the idea is that you're fully parked either within those lots or in your garage or driveway. Hopefully that helped clear that
So
up.
there are slots in front of the buildings as well, on-street parking?
There would be, yes.
Okay, so you have on-street, you have guest, you have driveway, you have one-car garage.
That's right.
Okay. And again, I'm not the parking guy here, but not knowing this product, I'm asking
Yep.
that question. So,
I'm a glorified parking guy,
Okay.
so, yeah.
And I guess, you know, we talk about the multi-use. And we've talked about Tree Light Square. You know, that was sort of the model that we mentioned before. And I guess I struggle with in Tree Light Square, you did have rooftops, like I understand that, and perhaps you justify a tree light with that. But the townhome product, the walkable part, came after tree light, essentially. So they've kind of filled it in around the commercial piece. So when I see this connection, then and Commissioner Joyner, Commissioner Eatman, I mean, we've talked about it before with Wendell Boulevard, and like, where does everybody go? If we end up with this commercial piece, how does it, are we just gonna have this one road, which is Street A, or are we gonna have bump outs onto the boulevard? Like, there just seems to be unanswered kind of question marks on what that commercial piece looks like.
Well, I mean, one of the unanswered questions that y'all are currently designing, as was mentioned by Brian, is the Eagle Rock extension, right? So this project has set aside a little over 1/4 of an acre to allow for that, sort of in that purple there, to allow for, because as we were doing this, it was unclear whether it was going to go, you know, the current route of Eagle Rock or whether it was going to swing more north towards the entrance for Vichet Industries. It sounds like that's where you guys are headed. That would be along that stream, I believe, or sort of parallel to that stream. And so I think what you would probably see as things move forward is that Eagle Rock would provide a pretty significant spine for that commercial area. And so there would be that bump out front through this parcel, but it would not be the only method of access. There would be potentially access onto 64. I can't speak for exactly how that would work, but I think also with Eagle Rock extension and again, this development is highly gridded because that's what the town required and that's what the town wants. So any commercial, we would presume, would face similar requests and requirements. And again, one of the complications we have, we know it's not your issue, but we can't make the landowners do what they don't want to do. And what, as I understand it, what they've said is that they want, this is the portion they want to sell. They want to retain it. They are not developers, so they don't want to develop the commercial. And so one of the challenges we had was trying to be thoughtful about it and answer y'all's concerns without engineering somebody else's land for a project and telling you something that was going to happen that we didn't know if it was going to happen or not. And we appreciate that is not y'all's concern necessarily, but just putting the cards on the table, we have really tried to, this is a case where, you know, Haley Development has tried very hard to try to meet y'all's concerns. We appreciate your concerns and we've tried to address those as best we can, given some of the limitations we have. But certainly appreciate y'all's concerns, but wanted to just make that clear. And again, you know, we think that this is a project, even acknowledging that maybe we didn't go back to everybody, where we have tried to really address most of the concerns that are out there. There's been a number of projects that have been approved just in the time since we first saw y'all, and this faced, you know, similar public concerns. And really, the thing that got this hung up on is really the concern about the innovation district. I think it was said a few times in both meetings that if we were just talking about the property to the south of Old Tarboro, this would have been approved back in February 2023, regardless of the comments by neighbors and other things like that. I think that's why we had focused, and I think staff had focused, because we met multiple times with staff in the area to the north of Old Tarboro, and how do we make that a little bit more dense? How do we address the concerns about the overall development, given some of the limitations? So I'll get off my soapbox, but just wanted to provide that context.
Anything else from the board right now?
Just make a comment that I see it and I appreciate it. And to your point, you can't make them do something they don't want to do. My fear is there's something that they don't want to do, right? And so my fear is that the top develops and it doesn't mesh well with the bottom, right? And we only got one shot at doing that. What I will say is, based on where I think, or based on where the street access is, based on the greenway path and where that is, and where the natural watershed is, I can't personally think of a lot of other ways that that lines up other than that. So I do think that you're there. To that point, when I leaned into rather aggressively, as you pointed out, that the south side, I'd pass it tomorrow, I would also make everything north of it commercial tomorrow. So like, it's where you draw the line, and right now, this line got drawn in a place that I don't think, well, there was no way anyone could have predicted exactly where that line would go, but I don't have a problem with the project. I don't have a problem with the density. I think that the two stacks on the north side are good. That's closer to what I would see. I will say that, like, on the grand spectrum of Innovation District, like, yeah, you moved in, but like, you're over here, right, on the Innovation District. So like, yeah, you comply, and I certainly laud you guys for that. The other thing that I would say is, and my opinion wouldn't be different, but the pause is that it's the same property owners, right? Like, it just, it seems like that left hand should know what that right hand is doing, or at least would want to. And I don't fault you for that, but I would hope they're motivated sellers on both, right? Like, I don't, that part still confuses me. So I'll just leave that at that, Madam Mayor.
Anyone else right now?
I'll just add that, and this is a comment, that, hear you loud and clear, and I do feel you on not being able to make somebody do what they don't want to do with their property. We have a very similar challenge and set of concerns in the role that we play in the process. So I've already said where I'm at, but I think we have a very limited number of sticks and carrots that we can use. And to me, when a single parcel of land exists, especially in an innovation district on a primary route, artery into our community, I'm still in the let's hang tight and see if we can't get a whole plan for the property at once.
All right, is there anyone here tonight that would like to speak in the public hearing for or against the project? Okay, I don't see anyone. Anything else from the board?
I'm just going to ask, Toby, or anyone, we routinely do projects where you would walk in and say, phase one of this project is going to be south of Old Tarboro Road, and phase two of this project is going to be north of Old Tarboro Road, and phase three is going to be the commercial, or phase four is the commercial. The commercial always comes at the end, but what I'd say is I'm always more comfortable with all of the other things coming first when I know what's coming at the end. And knowing that there's not gonna be there's not gonna be a pullback, right? Like given that they seem to have a desire for commercial, that they have to want for commercial, but maybe they don't want, maybe they're not at that point. Do you think that this is something that could become a phase 4 of y'all's project? Or a phase 5 of y'all's project? It doesn't have a timeline dependency on it, in my mind. It doesn't have to, but it does allow us to lay out or allow y'all to have a better understanding of the layout that,
Ties it together.
Well, I'm looking at Rich, who's ultimately the decision maker here, so I
and
should.
happy to give you guys. I'm thinking about how we, sometimes, it normally seems complex when something comes to us with lots of phases, but I often, now that I'm looking at this, I wonder how many times this problem has been solved by phasing, because you're gonna be ready in 3 years, and that's when we're gonna be ready with phase 3 anyway.
So I mean, there's some technical aspects of it. It involves contract, it involves what then is the application for annexation and zoning. And so it's hard to just wing it.
Yeah, no,
Because
I
I
don't
wouldn't
wanna
want to
ask-
be
and I don't
inaccurate
want-
about it, but I think rather than where it's possibly going, I think it's a concept I'm trying in my mind to reconcile real quick right now about what's possible.
Do we
under
have the
that.
ability to give you guys time?
Can I add maybe some elaboration? I think Commissioner Joyner and I have a similar frame of mind on this. Reading tea leaves. I don't know that there are 3 votes on this board to approve what's before us tonight. We haven't had that vote. We haven't had that conversation, but I've heard what everybody said. I'm not prepared to vote for it. I've said that. I think that being said, we're very conscious of voting things down because of what that means for y'all's business. But also, I mean, the point is not that we're drastically opposed. I am not drastically opposed to any of the components of this proposal. It's the context around it that we've discussed at length today and 2 times previously in the last year. So I think part of what I would like to know is, do y'all have a preference about which of those 2 actions that I've just sort of alluded to happens tonight?
I always have a preference of not having a vote of denial after working very hard on as a business and to carry out a vision and trying to meet what the community plans are in the Innovation District, which came on midway through our process. So the preference is not to get a vote of denial, but it's also to be technically not off the rails, again, on the technical aspects of how it would work from a land use and then a contract standpoint, and what are we able to do under a phasing. So I would look at my land use attorney and then look at staff and kind of try to reconcile what's possible within the context of what you've laid out on phasing potentially, and then what would we be able to come back with under phasing. And so I guess prefer to request a continuance to see what's possible under that, but I think we would also have to do it's a different annexation, I mean, a different line. And again, I'm not trying to be coy, I don't have there's no coyness at all, it's actually trying to be accurate.
And that was sort of my question, is there a value to giving you an opportunity to start over in the sense that that's what some of this would be? Is it, do you want the time? I mean, you've kind of told us that you maybe want the time. I know we've done that for like a year.
We want to, can we? I mean, is it?
And I know you only have the contract for what you have a contract for, which I know is probably a consideration for y'all too.
And I'll add, if it's helpful, that, again, Southside, good project, not opposed to the product, that kind of thing. And truly, by definition, is it innovative? To Commissioner Joyner's point, I mean, it is. I've never heard of it. So in my mind, that's innovative. But is it just crossing over into it versus truly innovative?
Well, I don't fault you, like, you're in it, right? I do not dispute that you're in the innovation. What I said was that you heard the density part. I don't know that, and maybe we didn't communicate that the reason that the density is important and the reason that the density, in my mind, is warranted and needed is because there's going to be commercial. But knowing that we only have one Wendell Boulevard that's across from Wake Tech and just across from Appadan and right beside the most confusing intersection in all of Wendell, and just, right, like it doesn't look like a lot if you're standing on Old Tarboro Road. If you go stand on I-87 bridge and look back, it's a whole lot. And so it's perspective there, and I certainly am not trying to make things more confusing. And I may have, phasing might not be a thing that is even a thing, right? And someone tell me that as well. My point was, I like this, I like what you've done, I like the improvements that you made. I just really, it's such a small triangle that's owned by the same people, and it's hard not to want to, like, why can't I know? And that's just,
So to tie off on that, we would have to go back to the landowners and see what's possible. We'd have to, it would be a whole new, it would be, I don't want to say, I pray it's not a whole new start from scratch, but it's from a procedural standpoint, it involves going back.
even if they were, like, my opinion would change if they were standing here tonight and said, yes, we are said landowners, and yes, this is a plan that we like, and yes, the plan that you have sketched out in front of you looks pretty close to what we want to do. That, like, what I'm trying to get is a commitment out of somebody that has some,
I've got some ideas, but I don't want to talk about it on the fly at the dais. I'd much rather talk with the developer, hearing your comments tonight about ways to continue this development and look at conditions and other commitments that might be able to be made to address the concern about the remainder of the property, short of all coming in, because they don't have control of the full property to be able to show the whole connection and everything at this point. But they might be able to get enough of a commitment and condition something to the future, dependent upon conversations with the property to the north.
Which sounds,
If that's sufficient to the board, then that's a conversation staff can have. But they nor staff can commit another property owner to an application that they're not party to.
For my part, just my part, that's not enough. What I'm talking about is being able to see a proposal that covers this whole single parcel that exists. That short of that, it wouldn't be enough for me.
I would like just one clarification to just, I think it's helpful for all of us as we're having this conversation, because we talked about earlier the recombination of the plat and everything. So that was a recombination, which means that it wasn't just created, it was moving lines around. And so what, I think this will help us, because what we did when we first got this in, from a land planning standpoint, it was, okay, we have this one property owner. Well, it's technically 3 sites. It's the north bisected by one property line in a specific point, not even close to the stream, and then there's the site south of Old Tarboro. So what we ended up doing is, in coordination with the owner, they said, we want X acres along Wendell Boulevard, which I think was also part of the town's plan at the time. And we moved that line to have a little bit more logic and a little bit more sense. And I know this doesn't answer y'all's questions. I think it's appropriate dialogue, just because it was something that was moved in concert with them. And I didn't want to walk out of here without mentioning that, because I think it's important, so.
Thank you. Anything else from the board?
I'll just speak up real quick. Just so people know where I am too. I'm not the high density guy here, but I do like this project, and I really just commend everybody for just seeing the big picture. I like where we're thinking of that too. And this is a large hub. It's a main area. It's right off the interstate. I agree with Commissioner Eatman, how he said it, like, and I guess everybody too, just seeing what we have here is the density is fine. Seeing the commercial, which I think is probably the biggest of the pieces, is very critical to seeing the overall future of this project. And so I'm with you. I think I'd like to, I'm absolutely with everybody else. So.
All right, close the public hearing, and
staff or Mr. Coleman have a preferred motion of how we like to move forward.
Well, you know that this is where I always jump in and say, I want to make sure we get it right. So we've been this long on the calendar. I'm not opposed to pushing it out if need be. We've not even really not been down the transportation chatter. I think last time we talked about, maybe briefly about the neighborhood meeting. I think that's a source of maybe a little heartburn this time. You know, I'm not opposed to pushing it out if we need some extra time to try to get it right.
Mr. Cawley, would the appropriate thing be to, at this time, to deny the annexation and rezoning in anticipation of a third public hearing? Because I assume any changes that they come back with will be substantial enough another public hearing will be required, just like tonight.
You could do that. I think
Is
you,
there an alternative?
I think there is an alternative. I think a delay of some period of time, and I don't know what the applicant might have in mind, 30, 60 days. And you can always deny it then. Or you hate to sort of deny it until you see what the changes might be. I'd give them,
Tonight, actually, so, okay. I thought we'd already,
and I think the manager's indicated he's got some ideas that may be worth discussing, and so I'd say give it a little bit of time, and I defer to you on what's wise about the time, but
maybe up to 90 days or something to make sure, I don't know.
We certainly would appreciate the additional time so we could talk to Mr. Collins and the town staff. We would look for some guidance from Town Manager Collins and staff about what sort of timeline we'd be talking about. To the extent that, and it may be that we come back, and to the extent that the commission's preference, and I guess I'm asking this as much as anything else, but to the extent the commission's preference is if you come back, we want you to have done a neighborhood meeting, fully proper, another neighborhood meeting, that sort of thing, then we would need some additional time, obviously, for that. You know, and obviously, any and all guidance, I guess I would say the other thing is this has been around long enough that I'll just be really frank with y'all. If there is, if there is, you know, no way on God's green earth that we're going to get 3 votes, I'd rather know that. I think we'd rather know that now.
Can I say something at this point? And again, this is the second time we spoke. Sure. And I understand your job as an attorney is to advocate for your client.
Yes, sir.
But when I hear the Mayor Pro Tem go, he's concerned about what the left hand and the right hand won't tell him, and my first interaction with you is, I'll argue a misleading comment, I got a little, I was disappointed with that. I owe the planning director an apology because I was so disappointed, I probably responded to him defensively, and I apologize. But we have to answer these people that call us, email us, text us, talk to us, see us 5 times during the week. So when we ask you a question, I need the whole truth and nothing but the truth. I know you're not under oath. I know your job, and I'm not trying to tell you your job, but it helps me make a decision. And when he says that is concern, then that raises my concern level. I'm not philosophically against you, but I want to make sure the community is engaged. I want to make sure you've addressed the other individuals' concerns that are on the dais. I'm happy to support the project. Philosophically, I like it. I think Commissioner Eatman's got a good point. I'd like to see the whole thing, phase 1 to phase 5. Thank you.
I think it's looking like at this time, you probably don't have enough votes to pass it. I think that's a fair assumption. You said you were looking for that, so.
Yeah.
Why don't we see about getting a motion to, how much time do you want to say?
We do up to, is that?
Up to,
Can
would
we-
be nice, that way it could come back sooner if you wanted.
it would make the notice easier if you'd pick a date and continue it to that date.
Okay.
Quick, and I know they do it online.
If
But
you're,
if we do another neighborhood meeting, what is the turnaround time on something like that?
for neighborhood meeting, typically the ordinance says 30, we need it 30 days before planning board or 10 days, but yeah. But, so just for the record, if you motion to deny and they make changes, it cannot come back to you anytime before a year.
So my
Or
intent is
ordinance.
to delay it. All I'm waiting on is a time
Just-
frame.
60 days, does that allow enough time for a online neighborhood meeting?
Yes.
And again, I'm not trying to string you out and cost you a bunch of money.
I would remind the board that there has to be before you have a neighborhood meeting, we have to meet with the developer's staff. There has to be some agreement on what's going. There sounds like there also needs to be a discussion with the property owner to the north, the remainder, and then they have to work that out and have something to present at that public meeting and neighborhood meeting, and then bring that back here. So that's not a short, quick turnaround time process. That's a pretty significant matter of time, which is where the applicant and staff are asking, is this a useful use of our effort? We're open to make that attempt, but if there's not a will of the board beyond it being a unified property, you know, I don't want to waste anybody's time or resources in that effort.
Do you feel like 90 days is enough?
We can give it a try, and if it's insufficient, we'll come back and ask for more.
Let's go with that.
June 10th, that'd be our first meeting in June.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I will lay out for staff, because we are pushing our staff on this as well, right? Is, for me, it's, I'm fine with the 90 days, but so I want to make a motion that we continue this item until June 10th, take action on June 10th. And I will acknowledge that I think it would be helpful if the board could communicate to at least staff what the metric, for me, it's a commitment from these folks, that a feeling that the property owner on the north side stands and tells me this is what we intend to do. But to this point, I haven't gotten that. I know for other people, it might be the whole piece. I can be persuaded that the whole piece will develop without, or could have. So it just, I make that motion, but then say that we need to get on it so that we're not burning staff time during budget season and
You want to,
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we continue this item until the June 10th meeting.
okay, so we have a motion to continue this item until the June 10th meeting. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. All right, thank you. Item 5B is an evidentiary hearing on a special permit request by Lucius Jones to allow dwelling multifamily townhomes at 0 Martin Street, PIN number 1784407-107 and 1784409-215. Mr. Coates?
Mayor, as a
Right.
introduction,
Yes.
this is a quasi judicial hearing or an evidentiary hearing. Due process rights apply. Witnesses are sworn. Certain subjects require expert testimony, such as property values, traffic, engineering, things that would require expertise in a courtroom. Also, under the due process requirements for a fair hearing, ex parte contacts are prohibited. Commissioners are to have an open mind and base their decision only on the evidence presented at the hearing. And as the applicant is a prior member of this body, I would recommend that any conflicts or perceived conflicts should be disclosed and addressed. In particular, any prior contacts about the proposed project.
Thank you very much. Anyone who wishes to speak or give testimony in this needs to come forward now and be sworn, please.
I do.
All right, thank y'all. All right, we'll open the public hearing. Mr. Coates?
Yep. Good evening, Mayor and board members. As you mentioned, tonight's hearing, this is an evidentiary hearing on a special use permit request by Lucius Jones to develop the parcel at 2 parcels at 0 Martin Street to construct 6 townhomes. the town of Wendell UDO to either construct townhomes, you either are considered multifamily and you need to either go through a special use permit or a conditional district rezoning. Mr. Jones submitted for a special use permit in this case. The applicant did submit a reduced site plan, which was reviewed for staff for all of the information that you'll hear tonight. For any special use permit criteria, the UDO does have criteria laid out in general that the proposed use does not affect adversely the general plans for the physical development of the town. The use will not be contrary to the purposes stated in the regulations. The proposed use will not adversely affect the health and safety of residents or workers. The proposed use will not be detrimental to the use of development of adjacent parcels or other neighborhood uses. The proposed use will not be affected adversely by the existing use. The proposed use will be placed on a lot of sufficient size to satisfy the space requirements. Also, the proposed use will not constitute a nuisance or a hazard. The standards set forth in this particular use project for which a permit may be granted, the board may impose or require additional restrictions and conditions to protect health, safety of workers and residents in the community. The proposed use shall be subject to the minimum area setback and other location requirements, and that the proposed use shall be subject to off-street parking and service requirements of these regulations. Parcel are highlighted here in purple. They're just east of the tennis courts at the town park. South of there are residential single-family homes along 3rd Street, and then the rail line is to the north. Subject property was rezoned to neighborhood center. The surrounding parcels are zoned R3 and R4, and as I mentioned, the nearby land uses. Neighborhood center zoning districts are coded to provide for residential mixed-use areas that have physical connectivity to commercial districts. In this case, the nearest commercial district is the downtown core. Currently, lot dimensions for townhomes and neighborhood zoning district. Mr. Jones's reduced site plan does meet all of those setback requirements that are in the town's UDO. They are providing, we'll go over some of the parking details. Type B buffer is required where the properties abut any existing single-family use that's more intense. In this case, the townhomes are considered more intense than single-family, so a type B buffer is required. A type C buffer is required between the townhomes and the town park, as it's considered more, the town park is considered less intense. Site plan does show those buffers. Open space, UDO requires 1,000 square feet of open space per dedicated per townhome. In this case, the applicant intends to request a fee in lieu that would come back to you for the open space requirements at a future time. Parking and access. For residential uses, the UDO requires 1 parking space per bedroom up to 2 per unit. The proposed 6 units will require a minimum of 12 spaces. The townhome elevations submitted show that each unit will have a 1-car garage for parking and 1 parking spot in the driveway. Site plan shows there'll also be 8 guest parking spaces. UDO requires 12. The applicant is showing 20 off-street. And access to the townhomes will be off Martin Street through a private drive. The private drive will not be town-maintained public street. It's just a drive for those access to those 6 units. Blueprint Wendell classifies this area as downtown fringe. Townhomes are listed as an appropriate use in downtown fringe. The connectivity to the core is what connects the downtown fringe and the core. You want it walkable. You want the residential that gets created in that fringe to have access to the downtown. This is certainly a walkable area to the core. As I mentioned, the development is approximately 0.3 miles to the heart of downtown and less than 1,000 feet to the town park. So there's some existing open space recreational opportunities close by, and also it pretty much serves the neighborhood except for a small gap for some sidewalks. But the connectivity is there in close proximity to the downtown. This is, I think that's in a wrong slide, but neighborhood meeting was held September 18th, 2023. The meeting notice and notes are included in your attachment. Staff's comments, the Town of Wendell Planning staff presents the staff analysis but does not make a recommendation on a special use permit request. The legal advertisement, you can see, ran in the newspaper, and those dates in early March. Notifications were mailed to the adjacent property owners on February 27th, and a public hearing notice was placed at the location on February 28th. We did receive a few phone calls from neighboring property owners that did see the sign and just had a question of what the hearing notice was about. And we do ask that if you do do approve the project, that you add a condition that says all applicable building permits, laws, and codes are obtained or maintained for the project. I can field any questions that you have. The applicant is here as well.
Any questions from the board? Brian?
Who would be maintaining the drive access? You said it wasn't a town street.
It's private, so it would be the homeowners association or however that neighborhood is created. It's not a town. The town would not maintain it.
Okay, let's hear from the applicant.
Good evening. My name is Lucius Jones. I live at 410 Selma Road, Wendell. I think we've talked about this particular project before. We were here to secure the rezoning. This is an infill project, which I think the town as a whole has been trying to do some work as far as doing some infill on lots that are vacant that not producing much tax money. And this is another case, I think, of a lot that certainly with what's planned to townhomes to build on it, it'll certainly increase the tax value and the tax income. It's close enough for walking to downtown. It's close enough from here for people who work at town hall. So it would give them another opportunity. So if anyone has any questions of me, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Anyone have any questions from the board?
One for either Mr. Jones or staff, but, and I think the answer lies in, because that's how we do it. I understand that parks are less intense use, but we always look for open space, and I feel like if this was further away, we would tell you like, oh yeah, and you should create a way for these people to get to the park, because that's a lot of the open space. Was there any thought given to connecting these to the park? I thought about that, and then I said, but that's a new entrance or exit to a park that the police chief's eventually going to want to secure, and maybe creating.
So the reduced site plan that is before you is just a reduced site plan. Mr. Jones still needs to get approval for the preliminary plan for the project. So if there is a desire for that connectivity, we can certainly see if that's an option.
I just saw the context. I saw the context about the buffer that would be there, and just thought that I would ask.
Any other
That's all I
questions
have.
from the board?
Madam Mayor,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to make a disclosure. I know the applicant socially. I'm a member of several clubs here in town. I think we're always asked to lean into these things, or at least I want to. I'm a Rotarian with him. I'm in the Bull and Bear Investment Club, which there's probably 30 of us in town, and we spent $2,500 as an investment several 5, 6 years ago, whatever it was, and we've never gotten a dollar out of it at this point. I think we just go have steak and pay our $500 a month or $500 a year dues. But I just think it's important that we understand that I have an open mind and I can rule accordingly. I know a lot of people in this town socially. I'm a member of a lot of clubs. That's just what happens when you sit in this chair. Thank you.
No one else? Is that okay? You okay?
Anyone else?
Yeah, I guess on that same note, it's been brought up here before. I do want to mention as well, I do know the applicant. Our families are social together. We do have similar overlap. Social club, service organization. We serve on a board together. I don't have any direct involvement, don't have any financial stake. I actually didn't even have any knowledge of the project until it was brought before us here. So that would be my disclosure, Madam Mayor.
I'm assuming this is an appropriate time for disclosures, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
Same disclosures, Rotary, Bulls and Bears. Mr. Jones is also a member of a 14-member state association with which the ABC boards, which my firm has a contract with. But again, in no way do I have as the checklist we have here, a financial relationship or anything that would conflict my judgment.
Keep the party going. Mr. Jones and I also have a social relationship, but clearly I'm not a member of enough clubs. I don't know that we're a member of any of the same clubs, but we've not had any ex parte. I haven't had any ex parte communications about this project from the applicant or anyone else.
Are we good, Mr. Attorney?
Yeah, I'll further clarify that I've not had any communication. Does not impact my decision in any way, except.
Yes, ma'am, I think we're fine.
Well, I'm just sorry that everybody here happens to be my friend, but I appreciate it anyway.
All right, is there anyone else from the public that was sworn that would like to speak? All right. All right, from the board, any last questions from the board? All right, we'll close the public hearing. What's your pleasure?
Madam Mayor, I'm happy to make a motion to grant the special use permit with the addition of the staff recommended condition that all applicable building permits, laws, and codes be obtained or maintained.
All right, we have a motion to grant the special use permit with the addition that all applicable building permits, laws, and codes are obtained or held or maintained. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Move into section 6, our administrative items. 6A is a decision to approve rankings and authorize the town manager to sign a contract for a request for qualifications for LAP EB 6048, construction engineering and inspection services contingent upon NCDOT concurrence.
Good evening, Mayor and board members. I'll be honest, I did not put this on consent because I know you'd want to talk about it. So I didn't even try that step in the process. So before you this evening is the first item is for the contract for construction, engineering, and inspection services related to our LAP project. I included the map. It's from Hanner Lane to Marshburn Road area. It's for sidewalk and pedestrian improvements. Also includes some drainage and paving as well. The town staff, we released an RFQ for interested firms for this service. One key thing to note is all the firms, to be eligible, you have to be NCDOT certified to even send us an RFQ response for this. We had 7 firms. Staff reviewed them with, staff included administration, planning, and public works, our new town engineer. We selected 3 firms to interview. We ranked them, and the budget for the project for this CEI services was a little over $150. Trans Systems has already provided us a quote for the service, which is within the budget, below the budget maximum, and so we're asking you to authorize the town manager to sign a contract with Trans Systems concurrent on NCDOT approval.
Any questions from the board? Mr. Coates?
Madam Mayor, I move we approve the staff recommendation and authorize the town manager to sign a contract with Trans Systems concurrent on DOT approval.
All right, we have a motion to approve the recommended rankings and authorize the town manager to sign a contract. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, item 6B is a contract award to the Fred Smith Company for the construction of improvements along Wendell Boulevard from Hanner Lane to Marshburn Road contingent upon NCDOT concurrence.
Yep. So the last contract was for the construction engineering inspection services. This is for the actual road work and improvements to the pedestrian network and the road. Just to give you a little background, during fiscal year 2021, the town was awarded some LAP funding requests through, which is majority federal funds, 80%, 20% town match. These improvements include sidewalks, safety improvements along that corridor. Construction contract was advertised December 19th, 2023. A public bid opening was held here at Town Hall on January 22nd. We did have 3 bids that came in. The Fred Smith Company was the lowest, most responsive and responsible bidder at $1.58 million. For the construction of these improvements is scheduled to start this spring and be completed. It's a 5-month process once construction starts. Originally, the town was awarded roughly $827,000 of federal funding with a local match of $206,000. The overall project budget at that time was $1 million. Today's project budget, which includes contingency, paying DOT fees and CEI services, total project is roughly close to $2 million. We did request additional CAMPO funds, were approved for those additional funds. It is a 50-50 match, so the town total for the project is $700,000 for the project, which includes construction, contingency, and the construction, engineering, and inspection services. I can field any questions you have, but we are asking that we award the lowest bid based on getting NCDOT, concurrency with NCDOT.
Any questions from the board?
Go back to that previous slide. So I understand this. Our local match was 206 for 827,
Yep.
but we are contributing 493 for 986.
Yeah, any additional funding from Campo is a 50-50 match. The original was 80-20, and so,
But it's an additional 986.
Yes.
Not going up from 827 to 986.
correct, it's
Okay.
an additional 986 total, and of that, we have to provide the 50% match. Yep.
Thanks, sir.
You're welcome.
Clarifying.
Go back one slide. Go back to the cover slide. Madam, no, you're right. Madam Mayor, I move we adopt a resolution awarding the contract to Fred Smith Company for the construction and improvements along Wendell Boulevard.
All right, we have a motion to adopt to award the contract to the Fred Smith Company for the construction improvements along Wendell Boulevard. Any discussion of the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Enthusiastically.
Been waiting for a long time. All right, item 6C, adoption of a budget ordinance amendment.
Good evening, Madam Mayor,
Good evening.
members of the board. Oops. Yes, so here to present a budget ordinance amendment for the fiscal year 2024 budget. Throughout the year, staff reviews the budgeted or anticipated revenues and appropriated expenditures through your previously adopted ordinance to make sure that the department totals and in some cases sub-line item budgets remain within that appropriated budget. When evaluating that, we try to move dollars within departments as best we can. Other times we can recognize revenues that have come overperformed original estimates. For the next few months, we'll continue to evaluate where we're at and bring any future ordinance amendments to you for approval, certainly at least one for a year-end cleanup. The ordinance was provided in your packets. I'd be happy to discuss if there's any particular questions on it. Otherwise, asking for a motion to approve.
Any questions from the board?
Madam Mayor, I move we adopt the fiscal year 2024 budget ordinance amendment number 1.
All right, we have a motion to adopt the fiscal year 2024 budget ordinance amendment number 1. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving to our other business. Update by board committee, on board committees by town board members. Eastern Wake Senior Center, Commissioner Deloach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Met last week, met in person, well attended. We've got a couple of community members that are involved now as well, so that was exciting to see them there. We had our town manager, our very own Mark Collins, was there to have a conversation about what the future of a facility, centers in general in our town look like moving forward. So nice, I guess, time for Q&A from the senior center folks. Numbers are still up, membership's great, everybody's excited, and also discussed the upcoming fish fry. So we moved the fish fry this year to a Friday night during Easter season, so should be well attended. You'll see signs around town. So $14 a plate. Thank you.
Wendell Volunteer Fire Department Board of Directors, Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I also had a fire commission and a fire commission budget meeting all in the same week, so I'm going to roll them all into one because they all apply to the same thing. The proposed budget that will be going to the county manager and then later county commissioners from the fire commission includes new fire truck in Wendell. There's actually one on order and one was already on order. So you'll see 2 new fire trucks in Wendell in the next 24 months. In addition to that, you'll see 9 new firefighters. Very proud of the Wake County Fire Services group as well as Fire Commission. We'll be instituting 4 men on every truck, which is IFA rating. It is the recommended policy. However, the vast majority of municipalities in the state don't comply with that. When we first started down this path, I think there was only 2 firefighters at Station 2, so having 4 on all of our apparatus will both protect lives and allow us a nice increase in staffing in what is now got to be the fastest growing department. So thank you, Madam Mayor. That's about all of it for the fire department.
We'll move into our commissioners' reports and stay with Commissioner Joyner.
There's been a lot of fun, wonderful things going on, and there's about to be a lot more as spring comes. I got Madam Mayor always gets to do these fun things where you go read to kids and talk to kids. That's not something that I have historically done, but did it this year, Read Across America at Wendell Elementary School. It was a very cool experience, and the mayor always gives you like 1 or 2 of her highlights of questions, but the questions are really just great. And afterwards, Commissioner Lutz told me that he got kindergarten. I had 3rd grade, so I got a little bit tougher questions, but I think he's going to just start volunteering to go read to kindergartners as a mental health thing. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
It's very fun. It's a feel-good thing. Okay, Commissioner Lutz?
Yeah, tougher questions, but, you know, they probably graded it down to my reading level. My fun story, I guess, Dr. Lutz sounds enough like Dr. Seuss. So the kids, for a good 20 minutes, thought that I wrote all those books on the wall. And so when one kid then asked me, he said, "You wrote all these books?" And I kind of paused for a second. I thought, "Oh, no. It's Lutz, not Seuss." And then they kind of just, man. So, but no, that was a great fun. And absolutely just, like Commissioner Joyner said, very much a confidence builder. I mean, just, you know, you can't do wrong. You're reading a book, and it's great. So I had a great time doing that, too. Also got to meet with the organizers who were planning this year's Meet on Main event. And it seems to be they're already kind of gearing up. They've got a lot planned. They're building off of last year and just making a few adjustments and tweaks, I think, to involve more of the downtown. And but it was good. I think, you know, they're, of course, looking for sponsors. They're looking for volunteers, looking for bodies to help out. But that should be coming up, you know, here within, I guess, a month or so. So.
Nothing else for me tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Commissioner Honeycutt?
None for me tonight, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Deloach?
I'm going to follow up on the cliffhanger that I left for the fish fry, because I know everybody wants to know when that is. March 22nd, it's a Friday during Lent. At the Senior Center, drive-ups or you can purchase tickets ahead of time. Feel free to reach out to me. I can put you in touch with the right folks. But a lot of cool stuff going on in Wendell and warming up, so lots of fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Last week was Read Around the World Week, and I was at Lake Myra Elementary School twice. There's nothing like a group of third graders to keep you on your toes. My top question was, can you put people in jail? And I told them, gosh, I wish I could, but unfortunately, no. I offered our other police chiefs, I'm offering to you now, if you'd like, I'm ready and willing to assist you with that anytime. They were bright and polite and cutest kids ever. They have little things they have to do when they get to ask a question. They have to raise their hands and do certain things, and they have little motions and gestures that they do when they're supporting their classmates, and it was really nice. And they had me there to read, and then again to, they wrapped up their week with Book Character Day, and they all dressed up like a character of a book, and they had a parade. And so I was there to choose my favorite. That was really fun. So I was there twice last week, and I appreciate being invited. This Saturday, March 16th, quick reminder, at the Wendell Community Park near the Kelly Conley Community Garden, newly named that, at 10 a.m., we're going to have the Town of Wendell's Arbor Day celebration. So I hope that you'll come out there. We're going to be planting a tree. We're going to have kids' games and activities, some proper tree planting education, and a lot of fun. So I hope that you will join us. I suspect with it being near the park, it's probably a blooming tree to help with pollination in that area. So that's going to be a nice thing, be a fun thing to do to get out with your kids. So please come out. Then also Saturday, that's this Saturday, and then Saturday, March 23rd, the Town of Wendell is having a food truck rodeo from 3 to 7. And this is going to be an opportunity for you to provide input on a lot of projects that are going on around town. So this is your chance to learn all the things that we're doing, give us your suggestions and things like that. And they have some really cool prizes if you go through all of the steps. And we didn't get any of the prizes, but there's some really cool T-shirts and some really great swag. So if you come and participate, you can leave with some great prizes. And that's always going to be fun. We're very anxious to hear from all of you. So get engaged and come find out all the things that are happening around here. All right, I believe we have a motion to go into closed session.
Madam Mayor, I move we go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143, 318, 11A3, 5, and 6 to preserve attorney-client privilege, discuss the acquisition of real property, and a personnel matter.
All right, all in favor? We're going into closed session.